Alright, so this is going to be the race run replay for the TCSP Michigan truck setup. This is Season 3, Week 8. I did my run for the setup notes on 1.0, so I'll do this run on 1.1 tighter. See what results that one gets, and kind of show you a few things. We'll get right at it. Sorry, I was messing with my headset at that time. Kind of botched that entry. I'm actually going to mute iRacing when I'm talking so that you can hear what I'm saying. You can definitely run wide open here. If you're in the draft and you can afford to kind of feather out of the throttle, it's probably not a bad idea. It'll help preserve the tires. Yeah, it's about that. The draft will keep you close anyway, so you can get away with, you know, sacrificing a little bit on entry, maintain your roll speed, and get your exit. If you're leading, you'll likely need to be cautious with that. One thing you're going to see here throughout the week is it's very draft dependent. So, work together with your teammates. As best you can. Clearing passes might be a little bit difficult later on in the run. I'll show you, an alternate line that I did mention in the notes through 3 and 4. Through 1 and 2, it doesn't really work, but it's that run in the bottom. And there's a way that you can do it without sacrificing a lot of speed or scrubbing a lot of speed. So that's good. Ultimately, it's just all about momentum, maintaining as much speed as you can through the corners, keeping the wheel inputs to a minimum, straightening out your radius through your corners as much as you can. You might notice I'm kind of clipping that first seam on both ends at this point in the run. It's a slight tight phase, so grabbing that tar seam will help it rotate just a little bit. It's not it's not tight. But I can tell that the front tire is being stressed more than the rear tire at this point in the run. That will go away to where you'll start losing some rear grip, and you'll notice that it'll just rotate better. At that point, you can continue to use the seam or abandon it, get above it again. See, I didn't get it that time, and so it did feel a little tighter. It's expected around this lap count, so. One O, it's not as severe, and then obviously looser. You're sitting on the right rear quite a bit more. So I probably should have started a few laps ago, feathering out of the throttle, um, like to simulate more of what it's going to be like when you're in a pack in a draft. But just a slight crack like that right there just really settles the nose, gets it pointed, and you drive right off. Um, Lap times still falling off at that tenth, just over a tenth a lap. Tried to get away with not lifting there. Probably scrubbed too much the front end. But again, simulating race runs, I should be feathering out here. So there, I'm gonna mute iRacing. Give me a second here. Yeah, so there you notice I tried the bottom in 1 and 2. We'll go bottom in 3 and 4. Thing I want to point out is 3 and 4 it'll really kind of hug it a lot better, and the transition is not as severe. So if you have a situation where you're battling somebody and there's a gap in front of that person in front of you, you can really kind of dive it down early into 3 and then clear them and then drift back up. 1 and 2, that transition so much it upsets the truck. Ooh, we can't talk and drive. So you really, there's no advantage to it in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, you could approach it the way I showed last lap with the early apex at the yellow line, or you can late apex it. We'll show you that one this lap. You can see the difference, when you don't hit the wall. So as you see, you start losing a little bit of time down the straightaway doing that, but but I gained a lot from about the center of the corner on with that late apex across to the bottom. So if you can do that and then pull draft from somebody, you're going to gain um, without really putting a lot of extra burden on the tires. You just back up the entry a little bit more here, arc it out, and then you can cross it back up. You grab that seam and it just pulls the truck. I exaggerated it a little bit and gave up some time there, but that's the idea. Just gonna string some laps together, just running the right line or the optimal line. Record some times. If you miss the bottom by, just that little bit, definitely gets tight. Keep in mind this is the tighter setup. This is going to be for hotter track or for anybody who might be struggling with grip drive off later in the run. Also, I put out this option that's, it's tighter because um, Vegas this year, we noticed that trucks tucked up right behind you and you in dirty air would actually make you looser um, than it used to do. So dirty air at Vegas made us looser. Most tracks like this, though, it does make you tighter. So not really sure what to expect yet. We'll find that out in our group session. But something to keep in mind that if it's really edgy and dirty air on 1.0, this one is an option. Another thing to remember with this setup, or with the truck now, since the build, it definitely scrubs less speed when you're pushing, when the truck's tight. Um, Whoa, again, can't talk and drive. It's built like a tank, evidently. Uh, anyway, it's scrubs less speed when you're sliding the nose than it does when you're sliding the rear. If it steps out and you slide the rear, you just watch the delta just drop, and it's reflected in the lap times. So keep that in mind. You need to be as tight as you're comfortable with and can still maneuver. And if you're sliding one end or the other, it's better to be sliding the front than the rear. I need to get back to driving and not talking. So into three right there, bad entry, real flat entry. Didn't turn. At a two that lap, I clipped the seam down here and slid the rear a little bit. So you can still manipulate it by where you drive it. Miss the bottom by a little bit, it'll be tight. Get a little too much of the seam, you can make it loose. We'll go back bottom here. So you can see how much time can be gained with a good corner, but also down there on the bottom. Really starting to get pretty snug at a two. So this lap compared to last lap where I ran the bottom, I didn't actually go faster by running that half a groove up. Didn't really carry any more straightaway speed. So about this point in the run, the bottom and 3 and 4 might be the place to be. This is lap 30. On 1.0, I was a mid 41.0. High O here. So even though it's, I mean, as you can see, even though it was really, it was pretty tight. If I missed my entry, especially, um, it would get really tight. Even though we're still within half a tenth of lap times. Tight versus pretty neutral balanced. And 1.0, you can also drive it tight. You can drive it loose, just depending on how you attack it. Tires here were 51, 59, so obviously wearing tighter than the other setup. But lap times 05 on 1.0 and 08 on lap 30 on 1.1 tighter. So, like I put in the notes, that one was that's a good option for the more entry level driver. Similar traits. You can make it slide the rear if you eat too much of that seam, especially through 1 and 2. Otherwise, you miss the bottom or you miss that seam here. You either need to be right there on that seam or you can run quite a bit higher if you have more trucks to work with. But just half a car width up off of that seam, there's no turn. It's kind of no man's land right there in the middle. So you want to be down on the seam or way high. Turns 3 and 4, obviously, like we saw, you can definitely run that yellow line on that end without it changing the balance of the truck on that end. If anything, it might free it up just a little bit. Tires that other run were quite a bit more on the right rear on 1.0. Here we were 51, 58. So better tire wear, um, cumulatively, jeez. But um, a little less comfortable to drive. So again, down to preference. Times are there on either one of them, and that's it. I appreciate you guys enduring my 30 lap race run here at Michigan.